Chapter 1487. Of course, of course. Greetings, eldest senior brother. Greetings, second senior brother. Elder Nan Gong's goal was achieved. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. He hurriedly bowed to the two of them. Gong Ruidong and Gong Shaoxi naturally wouldn't refuse, so they accepted it very calmly. In their eyes, Elder Nan Gong was no longer a scourge that came to find trouble, but the youngest and lightest junior brother in their eyes. Elder Nan Gong was excited for a while. Suddenly, he rolled his eyes and suggested, "Senior brothers, I have a suggestion. Why don't we become sworn brothers? I don't know where I heard a story before. It was said that 3 strangers became sworn brothers in a peach garden. The 3 of them kowtowed to the ground and escorted their master to the west to obtain Buddhist scriptures. Their names were passed down through the ages. WH. What nonsense is this? Where did you hear such a strange story?" Gong Shaoxi was confused and rolled his eyes at Elder Nan Gong. He thought that this 3rd junior brother must have been beaten silly by exalted immortal Shao. Otherwise, why would he say such strange things? Duan Suqing, who had been waiting at the side, was also very happy after he figured out the reason. He didn't have any objection to being called senior brother or junior brother. Everyone knew that Elder Nan Gong was from the Profound Cloud sect. Now that he and Gong Ruidong had a master relationship, it meant that the Profound Cloud sect would support the Burning Sky faction. It also meant that he didn't have to be afraid of the Secluded Forest sect or other sects coming to provoke him. The more Duan Suqing thought about it, the happier he was. He immediately ordered his disciples to prepare a banquet at the biggest restaurant in the town. Then, he ran to the study room to prepare a suitable invitation to announce this news to the world. Elder Nan Gong, Gong Ruidong, and Gong Shaoxi were already chatting happily. He patted his chest and said that he wouldn't return to the Profound Cloud sect for the time being. He planned to stay in the Burning Sky faction. On one hand, he could get close to his 2 senior brothers. On the other hand, he could help the Burning Sky faction improve its strength. By the way, 3rd junior brother, if you come to the Burning Sky faction and don't go back to the Profound Cloud sect, will your sect master let you do this and not blame you?" Gong Shaoxi heard Elder Nan Gong's plan and couldn't help but ask. In Gong Shaoxi's opinion, Elder Nan Gong was a master at the Profound Ascension stage after all. Since the Profound Cloud sect had trained him for so many years, they wouldn't let him run around so easily. They would probably call him back sooner or later. Eldest senior brother, that's why there's a saying that we're not from the same family. The smile on Elder Nan Gong's face widened when he heard Gong Shaoxi's question. "What do you mean?" Gong Shaoxi was confused by Elder Nan Gong's words. "Look, my 2nd senior brother's uncle, who is also eldest senior brother's father, is the Grand Elder of the Burning Sky faction, right? Elder So, everyone in senior brother. Senior brother. Senior brother. Senior brother, Yun Profound Senior Yun said, smiled, and senior brother, senior. Everyone, senior brother. So. Senior brother, senior brothered. Senior brother. Senior brother. I see." Gong Shaoxi and Gong Ruidong finally understood. No wonder this guy could come and go as he pleased. He could even command the disciples of the Profound Cloud sect. It turned out that he was also a 2nd-generation cultivator. After knowing the reason, the 2 didn't ask anymore. There were many masters in the Profound Cloud sect. It didn't matter. Moreover, if Elder Nan Gong came to the Burning Sky faction, it would bring more benefits than harm to their sect. So, they might as well let him stay. While the 3 of them were chatting enthusiastically, a disciple came to inform everyone that the banquet in the town's restaurant was ready. Gong Ruidong and Gong Shaoxi exchanged a few more polite words with Elder Nan Gong. Seeing Duan Suqing walking over with a smile on his face, they left the Burning Sky faction under the lead of the sect master and headed towards the restaurant. Elder Nan Gong wanted to stay in the Burning Sky faction, so he naturally had his own plans. He planned to work hard and do something useful. After all, before upper deity Shao left, he had only instructed him to do this one thing. If he could do this well, when upper deity Shao returned, he might be happy enough to give him a permanent position. While the Burning Sky faction was bustling, the Great Master was reporting to the other side of the cultivation world. In the secret room of the Bandit branch, the Great Master was reporting. Although it was a report, the First Master was actually the only one in the secret room. In the middle of the secret room, there was a crystal cover that shone with a faint purple light. It looked beautiful, and if one looked closer, they would discover a faintly discernible human-shaped Yuanshan inside. The lines of the body made it seem like a woman. Meanwhile, the great leader was currently standing respectfully beside the crystal barrier, reporting the recent happenings to the human-shaped primordial spirit. Master, the Een cultivator we found a few days ago has finished her cultivation. She is now at the nascent soul great perfection. She can go to the secret realm and carry out the mission. The Great Master hesitated for a moment, but he still told the truth. But there is still a small flaw. Thinking of Nie Xiaoyu's situation, the Great Master couldn't help but frown. He thought that with the abundant elixirs in the storage, he would be able to smoothly raise the level of this little girl. He didn't expect that there would still be a problem. What happened? Don't dawdle. If you have a problem, say it. I don't like to waste time. It was unknown which part of the humanoid primordial spirit came from. It just hovered back and forth in the air above the secret chamber. It sounded like a robot, without any emotion. It's like this. Because that guy is at the last few levels of the nascent soul stage, our heaven and earth treasures are seriously lacking. But the matter of leveling up cannot be delayed, so I used the injection that you provided. The Great Master's voice was a little weak. The human-shaped primordial spirit didn't say anything else. It seemed to be waiting for the Great Master to continue. The Great Master took a deep breath and said bitterly, after using the injection, her body showed signs of serious rejection. Although we helped her to level up to the nascent soul great perfection, the aura in her body became very unstable. She could explode and die at any time. The Great Master was really depressed. He finally found a Een cultivator who was suitable in all aspects like Nie Xiaoyu. But her strength was extremely low, ridiculously low. Chapter 1488. Previously, the Great Master wanted to rely on the abundant medicinal herbs to help Nie Xiaoyu level up. Unexpectedly, before she could reach the full circle of the original infant stage, all the heaven and earth treasures in the storage were used up. At that time, Nie Xiaoyu was at a critical juncture of leveling up. If she could not level up, it was very likely that she would be stuck forever. The Great Master thought about it and had no choice but to use a special injection. In the end, the effect of the breakthrough was achieved. However, the current situation was not stable at all. She could only rely on other medicinal herbs to maintain her original condition. Indeed, I can't count on you. The primordial spirit seemed to be a little angry, and there was a slight fluctuation in its voice. The Great Master lowered her head in fear and trepidation, waiting for her master to continue scolding her. However, she did not continue to scold them. She just pondered for a moment, then reported the names of several medicinal herbs and the method of concocting them. She then added, although it is a temporary solution, there is no other way. We can only make do with it for now. When the Great Master heard the names of the medicinal herbs reported by the primordial spirit, she immediately took a pen and paper on the table and began to write it down familiarly. When she was done, the primordial spirit continued to instruct, what I provided you just now is a high-end stabilizer formula. It can temporarily suppress the effects of the medicinal herbs in her body. That's great. Thank you for your gift, Master. The Great Master was overjoyed and nodded. She immediately put away the formula carefully. Don't be too happy yet. This thing also has its flaws. The humanoid primordial spirit mercilessly poured a bucket of cold water on the Great Master. Its shortcoming is that it needs to be injected frequently. Moreover, because the medicinal effect is relatively strong, it is also very harmful to cultivators. Anyway, once it's used up, the little girl will have no value anymore. You just need to ensure that she doesn't die before you get that thing. The rest is up to you. Okay. I will immediately ask my men to concoct the stabilizer for the Een cultivator to take. After the effects are seen, I will arrange the rest. I won't disturb your rest for now." The great leader nodded obediently. After waiting for a while, seeing that the humanoid primordial spirit seemed to have nothing else to say, he bowed and silently left the secret chamber, turning around and walking towards the pharmacy. After the stabilizer was prepared, the great master immediately handed it to the second master and told him to personally escort Nye Xiaoyu to the secret realm to carry out the next mission. He also specially dispatched a few profound ascending stage masters to go with her. It could be seen that the things in the secret realm were extremely important. The second in charge naturally did not dare to delay. He quickly packed his luggage and set off with Nye Xiaoyu. Fortunately, their branch wasn't too far away from the mystic realm. After a day and a night of sleepless trekking, Second Elder and the others finally arrived outside the mystic realm. The second in charge didn't have time to rest. Because he didn't know how long Nye Xiaoyu would be gone for, he first ordered the profound ascending stage masters to build a simple camp so that they could wait outside. Then he took out a stabilizer and injected it into Nye Xiaoyu's arm. After the injection, the second in charge took out a small monitoring device from somewhere and handed it to Nye Xiaoyu. Then he solemnly instructed, "Tie this monitoring device to your body, and then we'll open the magic formation to let you in. Don't dawdle inside, find the materials we need as soon as possible, and come out after you've collected them." Nye Xiaoyu was very quiet along the way. She didn't know if it was because of some mistakes in her cultivation, but her skin looked whiter than before, even faintly transparent. She obediently took the device and looked at it. She always felt that this thing seemed a little familiar. It was similar to a camera in the secular world, but it was not so big. It was relatively smaller. Seeing Nye Xiaoyu's action, the second in charge cleared his throat and said seriously, "Don't think about throwing away the device and running away. There is only one entrance and exit in this mystic realm. You can go in and complete the task with peace of mind. After you succeed, you can regain your freedom." "Well, I know." Nye Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment, but she still didn't say her request to release Cheng Menjing. She planned to mention this matter after she finished collecting the materials. Maybe then she would be more confident. Carefully tying the device to her body, Nye Xiaoyu moved her hands and feet. Looking at the valley hidden behind the clouds, she had a feeling of uneasiness in her heart. Her strength had indeed improved by leaps and bounds in the past few days, but she felt that it was not solid at all. Later, she directly used some suspicious drugs, causing the fluctuation of yuan qi in her body to gradually become uncontrollable. Although Nye Xiaoyu felt that the rampaging yuan qi in her body had gradually calmed down after the second in charge injected her with the stabilizer, she still felt a little uneasy. The second in charge seemed to know what Nye Xiaoyu was thinking, and he said again, "Remember, your current strength is still not very stable. The medicine you injected just now can only last for 1 day. There are still a few vials of medicine in the bag on your back. If you feel that something is wrong, you must inject yourself immediately. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. Do you remember?" Seeing Nye Xiaoyu nodded obediently, the second in charge did not say more. He gathered the few masters of the mysterious ascending stage and walked to a slightly blurred array on the edge of the valley. The second in charge first took out a few spirit crystals and embedded them in a few corners of the array. Then he motioned Nye Xiaoyu to come over and stand in the center of the array. After everyone stood still, the second in charge taught Nye Xiaoyu a few simple hand gestures, and then began to ask everyone to activate the spirit crystals and exert the energy of the spirit crystals. Several people ran their mental cultivation method at the same time and injected yuan qi into the spirit crystals. The spirit crystals shone slightly, and then the vague traces of the array gradually became brighter, forming a trace of an array. "Now!" the second in charge shouted at Nye Xiaoyu. Nye Xiaoyu responded and made the hand gestures that the second in charge taught her just now. With a swoosh, an extremely bright light suddenly bloomed in the array. Everyone couldn't help but squint their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they found that there was no one in the array, and the spirit crystals had consumed most of their energy, becoming a little dim. Okay, let's just wait on the side. Seeing that Nye Xiaoyu had already teleported in, the second in charge waved his hand and led everyone back to the camp on the side. He turned on another device used for surveillance and waited patiently for the news. Chapter 1489. Nye Xiaoyu had already closed her eyes tightly before the strong light was emitted, so she only felt her body tremble slightly, and then everything returned to normal. After waiting patiently for a while, Nye Xiaoyu did not hear anyone beside her, so she tentatively opened her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. She was in a deep valley, surrounded by lush foliage and lush vegetation, but all the plants looked strange, not quite the same as the ones outside. Upon closer inspection, one would also notice that the air here was not as clear and pure as it was outside. Instead, there was a faint green mist lingering in the air. The deeper one ventured into the pocket dimension, the darker the color of the mist became. Although Nye Xiaoyu did not need to breathe like a normal human, she could tell that the green mist should be highly toxic just by looking at it. If an ordinary person breathed in a little, they would probably die on the spot. Nye Xiaoyu walked into the depths of the secret realm with small steps. After walking for a while, she found that the green poisonous gas would also adhere to human skin, seep into the body through the pores, and poison people. She had only walked a few hundred steps, but her skin had already become a little green. At this time, Nye Xiaoyu could only be glad that she was now a living dead person, and the poisonous gas could not have any effect on her at all. She suddenly understood why the second leader and the others sent her into this secret realm. It must be because of this poisonous gas. Although Nye Xiaoyu had an umbrella with her, this deep valley seemed to have no sunlight, so it did not make much difference whether she held an umbrella or not. For convenience's sake, she simply carried the umbrella on her back, freeing her hands to search for heaven and earth treasures more efficiently. However, things did not go according to her wishes. After carefully searching in the secret realm for a long time, Nye Xiaoyu still did not find anything. Instead, she encountered some spirit beasts that had mutated because they had been absorbing poisonous gas for years. Those mutated spirit beasts were very aggressive, and they would directly pounce on Nye Xiaoyu as soon as they saw her. Fortunately, their levels were not too high, so she could easily deal with them, but it also wasted a lot of time. Strange, didn't the second leader say that the thing is very easy to find? Nye Xiaoyu searched for a while and stopped in front of a forest. She muttered to herself with a surprised expression, "I haven't seen a single treasure after such a long time. Could it be that the treasure has all withered or has been taken by someone else?" Nye Xiaoyu frowned and tried to recall. She remembered that when the second head enforcer described the heavenly treasure, he said that it was a kind of dark purple flower with some tiny barbs on its rhizome and 3 round green leaves. It should be a gregarious flower that grew in one place. Although Nye Xiaoyu had seen a lot of exotic flowers and plants along the way, she didn't find any that matched the description of the second head keeper, which made her even more puzzled. Nye Xiaoyu didn't expect to complete the task in a short time, but in theory, she should at least collect 1 or 2. Otherwise, this situation would be too unimaginable. Whoosh, just as Nye Xiaoyu was pondering over it, a white thing suddenly flashed past in the forest in front of her. The white shadow seemed to be quite huge, and it was very fast. It was basically impossible to tell what it was with the naked eye. Who's there? Nye Xiaoyu woke up from her thoughts and was startled. She hurriedly used her mental cultivation method and got into a stance. Her eyes swept across the forest vigilantly, ready to deal with any sudden situation. However, after waiting for a long time, there was no movement in the forest. Nye Xiaoyu pursed her lips in confusion. She felt that she might have worried too much. How could there be a living person in such a place full of poisonous gas? It was probably some mutated beasts that wanted to sneak attack her, but after seeing her strength, they retreated. Thinking of this, Nye Xiaoyu didn't pay too much attention to it. She once again embarked on the journey of looking for the heavenly treasure. However, she didn't let down her guard. She released her divine sense within a certain range and carefully explored the surroundings, in case she was caught off guard and attacked by mutated beasts. As she searched, the sky gradually darkened, and the green mist in the mystic realm became thicker. With the dim light and the green mist blocking her vision, Nie Xiaoyu could no longer see her surroundings clearly with her naked eyes. She could only rely on her divine sense to feel her way forward bit by bit. Roar! Just as Nie Xiaoyu was concentrating on her search, a wild beast's roar suddenly came from behind. Along with the loud roar, there was a series of rapid and heavy footsteps. It seemed that something was approaching Nie Xiaoyu at an extremely fast speed. Nie Xiaoyu's face tensed up. She immediately used her divine sense to explore, but she didn't find anything. However, the powerful aura behind her that was getting closer and closer was enough to prove that it was an unknown species with a much higher cultivation than her. Nie Xiaoyu suddenly turned her head and looked, but she could only see a blurry white figure shuttling back and forth in the forest not far away from her. She couldn't detect it with her divine sense at all. An ominous premonition made Nie Xiaoyu panic. Chapter 1490. Although Nie Xiaoyu was a living dead and was not very sensitive to pain and touch, she could still feel her whole body spinning at this time. Then, she smashed hard under the tree, blacked out, and directly fell into a coma. The monitoring device tied to Nie Xiaoyu also fell off her body due to the violent shock and fell on the ground not far away. In the camp outside the secret realm, the second master was frowning, holding another monitoring device in his hand and staring at it. In the monitoring screen, Nie Xiaoyu's face was full of wounds caused by the air currents of the branches. Although there was no blood flowing out, it looked very terrible. At this time, she was paralyzed beside the big tree with her eyes closed and unconscious. Before the second master could react, there was a new movement in the screen. A white hoof slowly fell down and directly trampled Nie Xiaoyu's monitoring device into pieces. Then, the screen on the second master's side disappeared completely. Damn it. It's bullshit. What the hell is that thing? Seeing this scene, the second master couldn't help but fly into a rage. He paced around the camp like a trapped beast and cursed loudly for a few times. Then, he calmed down a little. After taking a few deep breaths, the second master carefully put away the remaining monitoring device. Then, he took out a sound-transmitting talisman from his arms and put it in the basin that he had prepared. He planned to report this unexpected situation to the first master. After learning the news, the first master was also very depressed. Who would have thought that Nie Xiaoyu would be so unlucky as to be killed by a wild beast? Wasn't this too unlucky? Now that Nie Xiaoyu's lead was definitely broken, the great master had no choice but to ask the second master to withdraw from the camp with his subordinates. Then, they would think of other ways to enter the secret realm to collect medicinal herbs. Outside the east gate of Yaoxian County, Xiaochun carried a small bundle on his back as he walked out of the crowd with Hongzhu in tow. He walked to a remote place where no one would pay attention to him, stepped onto his flying sword, and flew east. He was prepared to ask around along the way in search of the Jade Green Devil Valley. At this time, a man and a woman entered the inn where they had just paid the bill and left. Sister Tang Tang, why don't we stay in this inn? I have a sense of déjà vu about this place. Perhaps Xiaochun Appa had stayed here before? Yu Xiaochuan looked at the environment of the inn carefully. From time to time, she stretched her nose and sniffed around. She cupped her hands and showed a satisfied expression. Don't be disgusting, okay? You called him Brother Xiao before. How did you become Xiaochun Appa after coming in? Watch less Korean TV series in the future. It's not nutritious at all, and you'll damage your brain. Tang Tang rolled her eyes and said angrily. You're so annoying. Sister Tang, don't make fun of me. Yu Xiaochuan stamped her feet and pouted. Tang Tang shook her head helplessly. She looked around and whispered, I think the decoration of this inn is quite high-end. I guess it won't be too cheap. We don't have many spirit crystals left. You have to save money. Don't worry. I'll just go and get some more spiritual crystals after I run out. Yu Xiaochuan smiled sweetly at Tang Tang and said softly, in any case, I can't let you suffer. Otherwise, how can I face Xiaochun Appa? Without waiting for Tang Tang to say anything, Yu Xiaochuan had already run to the manager and booked 2 rooms. Then he ordered some dishes and took Tang Tang to a table to sit down. He was going to inquire about Xiao Chen's news after eating and drinking. You Xiaochuan, don't blame me for not reminding you in advance. There are many masters in the world of cultivators. Don't steal things just because you're powerful. If you're found, I can't save you no matter what I do. Tang Tang sat down, but she still frowned and said worriedly. When Tang Tang and Yu Xiaochuan first came to the world of cultivators, they were as confused as others. At first, they looked for Xiao Chen and the others like headless flies. As a result, after a few days, not only did they return without success, but they were also hungry and cold. After understanding the situation here, the two could only choose to work for others first. After solving the problem of food and clothing and earning some travel expenses, they dared to continue to look for Xiao Chen. I'm now a master at the second level of the profound ascension stage. Unless I meet the bad guys from the big sects, basically no one is my opponent. In fact, there's nothing to be afraid of in the world of cultivators. Yu Xiaochuan said with a smile, then took out a mirror and cosmetics from the package and carefully touched up his makeup. After coming to the world of cultivators, Yu Xiaochuan found that the chrysanthemum treasure book that he cultivated was very suitable for cultivation in this place. Not only could it absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth very quickly, but it could also absorb anything. Whether it was the best treasure of heaven and earth, or the wild flowers and weeds that grew everywhere in the suburbs, even an ordinary meal could increase a little bit of cultivation. Although he didn't understand the principle behind it, Yu Xiaochuan naturally wouldn't let go of such a great opportunity. During this time, he cultivated crazily. In just a few months, he had broken through to the profound ascension stage. On the contrary, Tang Tang didn't know how to cultivate, so she was still at the venerable stage. Yu Xiaochuan once wanted to teach her the chrysanthemum treasure book, but was ruthlessly rejected by Tang Tang. She didn't want to be like a garbage can, stuffing everything she saw into her mouth. Since Yu Xiaochuan's strength grew rapidly, he began to feel that working for others not only took a long time, but also the amount of spirit crystals he earned was too little. So he simply began to steal spirit crystals for a living. Of course, he was not stupid. The spirit crystals he stole every time were only a little bit, as long as it was enough for his travel expenses and living expenses. If he could occasionally find some treasures of heaven and earth to assist in his cultivation, he would be very satisfied. Tang Tang naturally opposed Yu Xiaochuan's approach, but she had no other good way to solve the problem of food and clothing. She could only helplessly choose to turn a blind eye. Now that Yu Xiaochuan mentioned the old matter again, she couldn't help but try to persuade him again, but unfortunately, she couldn't persuade him. Whatever you want. Seeing that she couldn't persuade Yu Xiaochuan to change his mind, Tang Tang had to no longer insist, but changed the topic. By the way, your strength seems to have stayed at the second level of the profound ascension stage for a long time, right? Why haven't you leveled up recently? Is there something wrong with your cultivation method? I think your cultivation method is a bit strange, it's better to be careful. Chapter 1491. Thank you for your concern, Sister Tang Tang. In fact, I also feel strange. Maybe at this stage, if I want to advance further, I will need a lot of treasures of heaven and earth to assist in my cultivation. Yu Xiaochuan held his cheeks and muttered, when I ate those treasures of heaven and earth before, my level increased quite fast. It seems that I have to think of a way. Yu Xiaochuan didn't finish his words, but his eyes kept turning, wondering if he could find another sect to steal some treasures of heaven and earth, so that he would have a chance to advance to a higher level. Tang Tang saw through Yu Xiaochuan's thoughts at a glance, and directly exposed his idea of being a thief. You're not thinking of going to the major sects to steal treasures of heaven and earth again, right? I advise you to give up this idea as soon as possible. Now that you have the cultivation of the mysterious ascension stage, it's better to go to the Dada Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce to work. With your strength, you can also receive some high-level tasks, which is much better than taking the risk of stealing. This. Okay, then I'll listen to you. After lunch, let's go to the Chamber of Commerce to take a look. Yu Xiaochuan was lectured by Tang Tang, and had no choice but to nod helplessly, and agreed with a melancholy face. At this time, the waiter had already served the dishes. Before he had time to put the dishes down, Yu Shaochuan suddenly asked, "Hey, little brother, have you seen Shaochuan Appa? He is a particularly tall and powerful handsome guy. Not only is he handsome, but his strength is also very strong. He's very powerful." The waiter was a little dumbfounded. He originally thought that the guy in front of him was just a flat-chested woman, but the voice turned out to be that of a man. This guy who was neither a man nor a woman made the waiter a little nauseous, but the other party was a customer who came to spend, and he couldn't afford to offend him. He had to use the fastest speed in his life to put the dishes down, then shook his head, indicating that he didn't see it, and immediately turned around and ran away. "Humph, you've never seen the world before. You're so shy when you see a slightly prettier beauty. Do you think that she dressed up for you?" Yu Shaochuan glared angrily at the waiter who had run away and scolded angrily. After cursing, Yu Shaochuan picked up the mirror and looked at his reflection in self-pity. He muttered, "If it wasn't for the fact that I don't know when I'll run into Shaochuan Appa and have to maintain my best condition at all times, I wouldn't let a country bumpkin like you look at me." Tang Tang noticed that the guests around them were looking at her with strange expressions. She coughed a few times and urged, all right. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Hurry up and eat. We still have business to attend to later." "Well, Sister Tang, eat more. I have to keep my figure. I can't be as intemperate as you." Yu Shaochuan nodded shyly. She smiled and picked up a few pieces of meat and put them in Tang Tang's bowl. Then, she picked up some vegetables for herself and ate them in small bites. She was very careful to maintain her ladylike image. Tang Tang was about to explode when she heard Yu Shaochuan's words. Due to so many people watching, she couldn't go too far. She had to suppress her anger and turn it into appetite. She gnashed her teeth and wolfed down the food. In any case, Tang Tang had never cared so much about her image. After becoming a cultivator, it was not easy for her to gain weight. Her plan was to fill her stomach as soon as possible and then leave for the next stop. That was why she let loose and ate. After lunch, the two of them put their luggage in the room. Then, they asked the waiter for the address of the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. They left the inn and strolled along the street. Since they were not familiar with the environment of Yaoxian County, it took Tang Tang and Yu Shaochuan nearly half an hour to walk to the location of the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. "Hello, ladies, guests. May I ask if the two of you are here to work, or would you like to hire our Chamber of Commerce to serve you?" The receptionist standing at the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce greeted the two of them naturally. However, he was stunned as soon as he opened his mouth. He originally wanted to address the two of them as ladies, but he couldn't judge Yu Shaochuan's gender at the moment, so he had to temporarily change his words. "We are here to look for a job, but we have already commissioned a task from the Chamber of Commerce before. This time, we also want to check the progress of the task." Tang Tang didn't care about the receptionist's change of words because she was already used to it. Yu Shaochuan's attire that was neither male nor female was easy to attract the attention and suspicion of strangers. However, she couldn't correct him. Over time, Tang Tang didn't take it to heart. "Okay, please come with me." The receptionist nodded and made a gesture with a smile. The two of them followed the receptionist to the front of the counter and took a few forms that the receptionist took out from the drawer. When they were bowing their heads to read, the receptionist said again, "Please tell me your names and your current cultivation level. Please report truthfully. I need to see what level of task you are capable of and whether you can meet the requirements of the employer." "Okay, her name is Tang Tang, and my name is Yu Shaochuan. Her cultivation level is a master at the peak of the Venerable Realm, and I have been promoted to the Profound Ascension." Before Yu Shaochuan finished his words, he felt Tang Tang suddenly pull him. Yu Shaochuan stopped talking and turned his head with a blank face. He blinked at Tang Tang in confusion, not knowing what he said wrong. Tang Tang didn't have time to explain more to Yu Shaochuan. She first gave him a wink, and then quickly said to the receptionist, "Oh, Yu Shaochuan just said something wrong. He wants to break through to the Profound Ascension stage. In fact, he is only at the peak of the nascent soul stage." He hasn't really been promoted to the profound ascension stage yet. In addition, the name of the person we asked to find in the Chamber of Commerce is Xiao Chen. You can also check it together. Okay, then please wait a moment. I'll look for the relevant information. The receptionist didn't pay much attention to the strange behavior of the two. He nodded and walked to the cabinet on the side. He began to look for the information of the registered personnel in the bookcase. Sister Tang, why didn't you let me tell the truth just now? I'm really at the second level of the profound ascension stage. Seeing the receptionist walked away, Yu Shaochuan lowered his voice and asked Tang Tang in surprise. Yu Shaochuan still trusted Tang Tang very much. He also knew that Tang Tang must have a reason for doing this, so he didn't refute on the spot, but just asked secretly. Are you stupid? When we worked in this Chamber of Commerce before, your registered level was only at the first level of the Qi refining stage. It has only been a few months, and you have been promoted to the second level of the profound ascension stage. It would be strange if the people in the Chamber of Commerce didn't doubt it. Tang Tang rolled her eyes at Yu Shaochuan and said with disappointment. Chapter 1492. Ah! Yu Shaochuan exclaimed in a low voice and immediately covered her mouth with her hand. She asked with a surprised and aggrieved look, no way. Just because my level is high, they want to catch me and study me like a monster? I don't know about that. Anyway, it's definitely not wrong to be cautious. Tang Tang shook her head and said helplessly, I wanted to say a little lower, but I'm afraid that my strength is too low to do advanced tasks to earn spirit crystals, so I can only say that you are at the peak of nascent soul stage. Don't be exposed later. As soon as Tang Tang's voice fell, the receptionist came back with the information. He first looked at Yu Shaochuan strangely, then stared at the information for a while, and then asked, that. Yu Shaochuan, right? Yes, it's me. Is there any problem, young man? Yu Shaochuan was a little nervous. She simply bit her lower lip and winked at the receptionist. The receptionist couldn't help but shiver. He felt a chill and quickly withdrew his attention. He cleared his throat and said, ahem, judging from the information, your strength has improved a little too fast, hasn't it? Are you deliberately falsifying your strength in order to get a well-paid job? High-level quests aren't something that just anyone can do. No, young man, you've misunderstood me. Yu Shaochuan stamped her feet and immediately ran her cultivation method. She deliberately suppressed her strength to the peak of nascent soul stage, and then said in a sweet voice, if you don't believe me, you can see it with your own eyes. I do have the strength of the peak of nascent soul stage. Well, since you do have this kind of strength, I can help you arrange a more advanced job. The receptionist shivered again and quickly agreed, lest Yu Shaochuan continued to act like a spoiled child. Thank you, young man. Have you found the whereabouts of Xiao Chen Appa? We have registered with the Chamber of Commerce a long time ago. Yu Shaochuan breathed a sigh of relief and immediately remembered another very important thing. The receptionist picked up another document and said as she flipped through it, I'm really sorry. The Chamber of Commerce has yet to find the whereabouts of the man named Xiao Chen you're looking for. Do you still want to continue searching or are you prepared to give up? Of course. We must not give up. Yu Shaochuan waved his fist with a resolute look on his face and instructed the receptionist, you must continue to increase your search efforts until you have news of Xiao Chen Appa. I don't care how many spirit crystals you have to spend. Yu Shaochuan had already paid a sum of spirit crystals to find Xiao Chen. Naturally, he would not give up halfway. After all, working and cultivating were secondary. Finding Xiao Chen was the most important thing. All right, we will definitely satisfy the customer's request. Since you have said so, our Chamber of Commerce will continue to send experts to search for Xiao Chen's whereabouts. Once there is any news, we will inform you immediately. The receptionist nodded and carefully recorded Yu Shaochuan's request. While the receptionist was recording, Yu Shaochuan put his palms together and looked at the sky at a 45-degree angle. He secretly prayed, Xiao Chen Appa, please be well, healthy, and safe. Wait for me to find you. At this time, the receptionist had finished recording. When she looked up and saw Yu Shaochuan's expression, she could not help but be stunned. She simply turned her head and asked Tang Tang, "Madam Tang, is there any change in your current address?" "Yes, we are no longer staying at the previous address. We will be staying in Yaoxian Prefecture in the near future. The inn we are staying at is called..." Tang Tang nodded and told the name of the inn she had just checked into in the morning. "All right, I will write it down." After the receptionist finished recording the name of the inn, she asked again, "Also, is your cultivation still at the Venerable Realm?" "Yes, I am still at the Venerable Realm." "Is there any problem?" Hearing the receptionist's question, Tang Tang felt a little uneasy. "I'm really sorry, your strength is a little low." The receptionist looked at Tang Tang with a little regret and said honestly, "At present, the Chamber of Commerce does have a high-level mission with good pay, but due to the limitation of strength, only Yu Shaochuan can do it. If you also want to participate, I'm afraid there will be danger." "What? Why is it so troublesome?" "I don't want to." Yu Shaochuan was quite dissatisfied and pouted. He pulled Tang Tang and said, "Sister Tang Tang must go with me. I'm not at ease leaving her alone in the inn. You go and ask the person who issued the mission if he can bring her along. If he can't, I won't go either." Yu Shaochuan felt that he was also a master of the mysterious ascending stage. At worst, he would just have to do more work. In short, he must not leave Tang Tang behind. Otherwise, if he met Shaochen Appa, how could he explain it to him? "Well..." The receptionist looked a little embarrassed. She looked down at the information for a while, and then explained helplessly, "Although the employer's mission did not explicitly state that you can't bring more people, but from the information, this mission is very dangerous, so I don't recommend you to bring her along." Yu Shaochuan was about to lose his temper, but Tang Tang suddenly thought of something. She pulled him and asked, "I don't know if you can understand the specific content of this job?" "Oh, it's written on this information." The receptionist pointed to a line of the information and said, "The content of this job is to refine some kind of poisonous medicinal materials. People with too low strength will faint from the poisonous gas produced during the refining of medicinal materials. In serious cases, it will even be fatal, so only people above the nascent soul stage are allowed to accept this job." "So that's the case, then I can really go." Tang Tang immediately breathed a sigh of relief. She smiled and pointed to herself and said, "I happen to be practicing a special mental cultivation method that can make myself immune to all kinds of poisons, so I am completely competent for this job. Even refining poison is not a problem." If Tang Tang was asked to do the work of fighting or killing for revenge, she really couldn't do it. If it was just refining medicine, it would be much easier. "Sorry, our Chamber of Commerce can't bear the corresponding risks." The receptionist shook her head, looked at Tang Tang again, and said faintly, "Besides, whether you really have this ability, the Chamber of Commerce can't verify it. Why don't you try other jobs? Although it's a little tiring, you can also earn enough spirit crystals to support your livelihood." The receptionist boasted that he was usually knowledgeable, but he had never heard of any mental cultivation method that could make poison immune. Naturally, he didn't believe what Tang Tang said. He only thought that she was trying to participate in this job because of the generous reward of the task. That was why she lied. Chapter 1493. Tang Tang hesitated for a while and seemed to have made up her mind. Then, she said, "Little brother, please listen to me first. In fact, I was born with such a physique. I had a serious illness when I was a child. Due to the urgent need of this job," Tang Tang simply described her physique problem and everything she had experienced in order to increase the credibility of her statement. After listening to Tang Tang's description, the receptionist believed that she was not lying. After a moment of silence, she said, "Well then. I'll register you first and then send the description materials to the employer. As long as they agree, you can go for this job." Okay. Thank you very much." Tang Tang hurriedly thanked him. Yu Shaochuan also smiled and said to the receptionist, "That's right. He has such a high strength. Even if he brings a venerable, it will be a piece of cake." The receptionist's face was almost green. He forced a smile and handed the regular information form to Tang Tang. After she finished filling it, he immediately ran away from Yu Shaochuan's side. The next thing to do was to wait. Tang Tang and Yu Shaochuan left the Dada Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce. It was the first time for both of them to come to Yaoxian County, so it was inevitable that they were a little curious about this place. So, they wandered on the street for a long time and walked in the direction of the inn until it was dark. After passing through a small alley, the inn was not far away. The two of them walked and walked. When they were about to pass through the alley, Yu Shaochuan suddenly stopped and blocked Tang Tang behind him. He stared ahead with vigilance, and a haze flashed in his pupils. Yu Shaochuan, what are you doing? Why don't you go? Tang Tang was a little puzzled at first. When she was halfway through her words, she heard footsteps coming from afar, and three figures suddenly came out of nowhere. One of them, a one-eyed middle-aged man with an eye patch on one eye, directly stood in front of them. The other two young bandits stood on both sides of Tang Tang, blocking the escape route of the alley. Hee hee, little girl, you look pretty good. I like you. How about going back with us to have some fun? We can guarantee that we can make you want to die, and you won't be able to stop. The one-eyed middle-aged man glanced at Tang Tang's breasts with his only eye. He licked his lips in an incomparably wretched manner and said with a croaky voice with an evil smile on his face. Boss, it's been a long time since we've met such a high-quality person. Looks like we can have some fun tonight. The tall bandit standing on Tang Tang's right kept rubbing his palms, looking a little impatient. What nonsense are you talking about? How could one night be enough to play with such a rare treasure? You have to work for at least a month. The short bandit gulped and stared at Tang Tang's exquisite figure with his triangular eyes. From time to time, a lustful light flashed in his eyes. Humph. If you don't want to die, get the hell out of here. Whoever dares to touch my little sister Tang Tang, I'll make him die without a whole corpse. Yu Shaochuan had felt a sense of danger approaching before, so he suddenly stopped. At this time, he finally understood that these bandits were coveting Tang Tang's beauty, so they followed them and wanted to take her away and rape her. But Yu Shaochuan faintly felt a little strange. This was Yaoxian County. How could there be bandits? Ha ha ha, you're a hermaphrodite. Don't you know how to look in the mirror before going out? How dare you teach us a lesson? The one-eyed middle-aged man sneered and said in a strange voice, I'd like to see what ability you have to protect the little beauty behind you. As soon as the voice fell, the one-eyed middle-aged man's body began to surge with primordial chi. He instantly showed the cultivation of the first level of the profound ascension stage. Then he took out a cyan giant sword, jumped into the air with both legs, and fiercely slashed at Yu Shaochuan. The two bandits, one tall and one short, also operated their mental cultivation at the same time. They were both masters at the peak of the nascent soul stage. They didn't attack Yu Shaochuan, but flew to the position of Tang Tang. They wanted to take advantage of the opportunity when Yu Shaochuan had no time to care about his back and snatched the little girl. You're just at the first level of the profound ascension stage. Do you really think you're so great? Yu Shaochuan was not afraid of the one-eyed middle-aged man's attack. He sneered, and immediately his left foot gently stepped on the ground. His figure suddenly burst out, and faced the one-eyed giant cyan sword head-on. Thick primordial chi quickly covered Yu Shaochuan's palms, and dyed his very sharp nails blood red, as if the color of blood. It looked both beautiful and terrible, very eye-catching. Ha ha ha, I think you're the one who doesn't know death. My sword has never left anyone alive. Today, I'll let you. Seeing that Yu Shaochuan was about to be chopped to death by the huge green sword, the one-eyed middle-aged man laughed arrogantly a few times and ridiculed with all his might. But before the one-eyed middle-aged man could be happy for long, he found that the moment before Yu Shaochuan touched the cyan giant sword, Yu Shaochuan's body suddenly moved strangely. The next moment, Yu Shaochuan disappeared in front of him without a trace. The one-eyed middle-aged man was slightly stunned, and a faint thought floated in his mind, this sissy doesn't look so easy to deal with. On the other side, because the two of them were more than enough to deal with Tang Tang, the short bandit did not go straight to her, but looked in the direction of the one-eyed middle-aged man as he walked. Seeing Yu Shaochuan charging head-on towards the green greatsword in a daze, the shorter bandit felt it was a little strange, so he kept an eye on him. When he saw Yu Shaochuan suddenly disappear, he was greatly alarmed and hurriedly shouted, "Boss, behind you." "What?" The one-eyed middle-aged man didn't even have time to react when he felt a strong murderous aura behind him. His heart tightened, but he wasn't a vegetarian. He turned his wrist and brandished his cyan greatsword. Then, he turned around and fiercely slashed behind him. "Humph, you're too slow." Yu Shaochuan's indifferent voice sounded, only to see him lean down lightly, dodging the sweeping of the giant sword, then straightened up, with a charming orchid-shaped finger, casually brushed the cheek of the one-eyed middle-aged man, and then slowly landed on the ground from the air. The short bandit saw that Yu Shaochuan didn't seem to pose any threat to his boss, and just when he was relieved, something strange happened. "You're not a nascent soul." The one-eyed middle-aged man spat out the last few words with a twisted face. His mouth and nose suddenly dislocated, and his whole head seemed to be cut by a lancet, broken into several pieces of bone and flesh as thin as cicada wings. Chapter 1494. As the head was separated from the body, blood gushed out of the one-eyed middle-aged man's throat like a burst pipe. His whole body was like a pool of mud, falling heavily from the air to the ground. The only intact eyeball on his head rolled a few times and stopped at Yu Shaochuan's feet. "Puchi." Yu Shaochuan lifted his foot slightly and directly crushed the eyeball on the ground. The corners of his bright red lips curled up slightly as he stared at the two bandits and said with a sinister smile, "Now that we've dealt with this, it's your turn next. Speak. How many pieces do you want to be cut into? I will try my best to fulfill your wish." The tall bandit was about to grab Tang Tang's clothes, but he just happened to see the bloody scene of the one-eyed middle-aged man being beheaded in an instant. He suddenly trembled in fear and froze in place, not daring to move. A stinky liquid flowed down his pants, apparently he was scared to the point of peeing. Tang Tang immediately ran a few steps away from the tall and short bandits, covering her nose and frowning at them. "Don't just stand there like an idiot. Run. Are you waiting to be cut into pieces?" The short bandit was more clever, and quickly recovered from the panic. He first looked at Tang Tang, and estimated that it was too late to take her as a hostage, so he simply grabbed the tall bandit and turned to run. Oh, even a profound ascending stage first level is not his opponent. Do you think you can run away? Yu Shaochuan slowly shook the blood stains on his fingertips, looking very elegant. The tall and short bandit did not have time to answer, and ran forward desperately, wishing he had two more legs. At the end of the alley was the street with people coming and going. In their view, it was a chance to survive. Yu Shaochuan was not in a hurry. He shook off all the blood stains. At this time, the tall and short bandit had already run a distance. He arched his body, sneered a few times, and suddenly rushed out like an arrow from the bow. His figure was like a cheetah, rushing straight to the two bandits. After quickly approaching, his hands kept sweeping around their bodies. It seemed that he was fighting with the air. Although the movement was a bit funny, the tall and short bandits seemed to see the strangest thing in the world, and their expressions were extremely frightened. However, just as they opened their mouths, they did not even have time to scream. Under the sweep of Yu Shaochuan's blood-red fingertips, their bodies had been torn apart in an instant, the surrounding walls were dyed red, and the alley was filled with a strong smell of blood. Because Yu Shaochuan's speed was too fast, each move basically took less than a minute, and Tang Tang's own cultivation was too low, so she could not see Yu Shaochuan's movements at all. She only felt that the two bandits had disappeared in a flash, leaving only the blood stains on the wall and the ground. Tang Tang was a bit disgusted by the smell of blood, and the ground full of minced meat and bones was also quite disgusting. She suppressed the nausea and complained with a frown, "Yu Shaochuan, can you not make such a bloody mess every time? It's disgusting, isn't it? Fortunately, I haven't had dinner yet, or I will definitely vomit it all out." "I'm sorry, Sister Tang Tang." Yu Shaochuan finished dealing with the two bandits, took out a silk handkerchief from his arms, wiped the blood on his fingers, and said with a helpless face, "This is the mental cultivation method they practice. I can't do anything about it. How about next time I'm going to kill someone, can you hide a little?" Or I'll take them to another place and kill them again, so you won't see them. Forget it, forget it. You didn't do it on purpose anyway. Tang Tang sighed and waved her hand casually. Apparently, she had long been used to it. Looking at the headless corpse lying not far away, she muttered with some depression, I just find it strange. How can there be bandits in this place? The public security in Yaoxian Prefecture is too bad. It's not even as good as those small towns we stayed in before. That's right, it's too unsafe. Yu Shaochuan also pouted and snorted. While wiping his hands, he said, besides, the strength of these bandits is really high. It seems that we have to be more careful during this time. Don't run around when it's dark. It's safer to stay in the inn and wait for the news. Feeling that he had almost wiped his hands, Yu Shaochuan threw away the silk handkerchief stained with blood and looked down to check his clothes. After confirming that there were no bloodstains, he was relieved. The two walked out of the alley and returned to the inn. Tang Tang's mind was still lingering with the bloody scene just now. She had no appetite at all, so she went straight back to her room. Yu Shaochuan did not have much need for food, so he just ate something and went back to his room to cultivate. The next day, the two had a discussion. Yu Shaochuan wanted to change to a safer place to live, but Tang Tang considered that they had registered the inn address at the Dada Immortal Cultivators Chamber of Commerce the day before. It seemed inappropriate to change immediately, so she thought to wait for another day. If no one came to find them, they would change to another place and then report it. Yu Shaochuan felt that Tang Tang's words were somewhat reasonable, so he agreed and told Tang Tang not to go anywhere today. It was better not to even go out of the room, so that there should be no danger. The day passed peacefully. When night fell, Yu Shaochuan woke up from his cultivation. He sat in his room and pondered silently. Through what happened yesterday, Yu Shaochuan faintly felt that he had to improve his strength as soon as possible. In the world of cultivators, ordinary bandits who robbed people were already so powerful. If he encountered enemies from big sects like the inner martial arts world, it would be a small matter for him to suffer a little loss. If something happened to Tang Tang, he would really be too ashamed to face Xiao Chen. But then again, during this time, Yu Shaochuan had deeply realized that without the help of natural treasures, it was simply as difficult as climbing up to the sky if he wanted to improve his level. However, with the current spirit crystals in their hands, they were already short of food, clothing, housing, and transportation. There was no need to think about buying medicinal materials at all. After thinking about it, Yu Shaochuan felt that he still had to find a way to steal some from the sect or family. The most important thing was that he couldn't let Tang Tang find out. Otherwise, she would definitely scold him again since she didn't agree with it. After making up his mind, Yu Shaochuan simply did what he said. He planned to directly search in Yaoxian County at night. Whether there was any harvest or not, he would come back before dawn, so that he wouldn't disturb Tang Tang. After changing into night clothes, Yu Shaochuan quietly climbed out of the window. As soon as he took a step, a slight plop sound suddenly came from Tang Tang's room next to him. Chapter 1495. Although the movement was subtle, Yu Shaochuan still stopped vigilantly. He stepped to the window of Tang Tang's room and whispered, Tang Tang. Yu Shaochuan's call didn't get an immediate response from Tang Tang. He keenly felt that something was wrong, so he immediately opened her window and jumped in. With the faint moonlight coming in from the window, Yu Shaochuan suddenly saw that the bed was empty, and two black shadows were about to leave from the door of the room. One of them was carrying the unconscious Tang Tang on his shoulder. Who are you? Put her down. Yu Shaochuan couldn't help but be shocked and angry. He wanted to rush to save her, but he was stopped by another black shadow who didn't carry anyone. You were the one who killed my men, right? The black shadow's voice was a little old, and his eyes looking at Yu Shaochuan were full of fierceness. You even tore their bodies into pieces. I really didn't know that a guy who is neither a man nor a woman could be so ruthless. I don't care who you are, if you know what's good for you, quickly let go of Sister Tang Tang. Otherwise, I will let you die more ugly than those bastards. Yu Shaochuan stared coldly at the two black shadows and said. The yuan qi in his body quickly surged and gradually gathered on his fingertips. The cultivation of the second level of the profound ascension stage was revealed. It seems that I guessed right, you are really a master of the profound ascension stage. The black shadow in front of you Xiaochuan sneered, and immediately raised his hand and made a simple gesture to his companion. The man nodded, immediately opened the door, and quickly stepped out with Tang Tang on his shoulder. His toes gently touched the ground, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the vast night. Stop right there. Yu Xiaochuan was burning with anxiety. Just as he was about to go around the shadow in front of him to catch up, he suddenly felt a scorching wave of air coming from the side. He quickly dodged to the side and barely avoided the frontal attack. However, his shoulder was still grazed by the air wave, and a burning pain immediately spread from the injured area. Quite flexible. No wonder you were able to escape unscathed despite fighting against 3 of them alone, and even managed to kill them all. The black shadow snorted, his voice cold and emotionless. Without waiting for Yu Xiaochuan to react, the black figure began chanting again. 3 different colored flames, red, purple, and blue, appeared around its body. The 3 flames gradually lit up the dark room. At the same time, Yu Xiaochuan could clearly see the face of the person before him. The black-clothed man in front of him was an old man. However, his aged cheeks formed a sharp contrast with the light emitted from his eyes. His intuition told Yu Xiaochuan that this guy's strength was definitely not ordinary, possibly much higher than his own. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so easily come to his door and even dared to block him alone. Kid, why don't you try this move again? The old man moved his finger slightly, and the red and purple flames immediately turned and fused into one. In an instant, a dazzling purple-red light burst out, and it flew towards Yu Xiaochuan with a whoosh. Child's play. With the previous experience, Yu Xiaochuan easily dodged the attack of the flames. Yu Xiaochuan was worried about Tang Tang, who was taken away. He didn't want to delay time with this old man, so he decided to end the battle quickly. After dodging the flames, his figure moved slightly and disappeared into the air. The next moment, he appeared behind the old man. His sharp nails drew 5 bright red lines and pierced the old man's heart from behind. Oh. You're not using a magic instrument? Then I won't be polite. The old man seemed a little surprised. He quickly chanted a spell in his mouth, and the blue flame that stayed beside him suddenly soared and turned into a thick ice wall, standing straight behind him. Yu Xiaochuan didn't expect the blue flame to have this kind of ability. Seeing that his fingertips were about to pierce the old man's heart, they were stuck in the ice wall. He wanted to pull them out, but he couldn't. He was so anxious that his eyes turned red. At this moment, the purple-red fireball that Yu Xiaochuan had dodged before circled around and flew back. The game is over. I don't want to play with you anymore. Go to the underworld to accompany my 3 poor disciples. The old man said coldly as he stretched out his fingers to control the huge purple-red fireball. He quickly smashed it toward Yu Xiaochuan. Boom! Before Yu Xiaochuan could pull his fingers out of the ice wall, the purple-red fireball had already exploded on his body, instantly turning him into a flaming man. However, the flame only burned for a moment. Soon, a strange energy emerged from Yu Xiaochuan's body, extinguishing and absorbing all the flames on his skin. Even though it was just a burn, Yu Xiaochuan still suffered serious internal injuries. His whole body directly collapsed, curled up on the ground, trembling constantly, and spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Huh. Your mental cultivation method seems a bit weird. It was the first time for the old man to see such a situation. He felt a little surprised. He stared at Yu Xiaochuan, who was vomiting blood, for a while. Then, he suppressed the curiosity in his heart and slowly walked out of the room. He whispered softly, "Forget it. Anyway, you won't live long. I won't waste time on you." After saying that, the old man was already standing outside the room. He turned his head again to confirm Yu Xiaochuan's injury. He felt that this sissy could not hold on for more than 30 minutes. He shook his head slightly, flashed his body, and left the inn to follow his former companion. As soon as the old man's figure disappeared, Yu Shaochuan no longer trembled and vomited blood. He opened his eyes, gritted his teeth, and struggled to get up. Yu Shaochuan wanted to rush out of the door directly, but when he looked down, he found that his clothes had been burned by the flame. There were only strips of cloth left, which could not cover his body at all. In a hurry, he simply grabbed Tang Tang's coat and put it on. Then, he walked out of the door. As he walked, he sped up the mental cultivation method and quickly spread out his divine sense. After confirming the direction of the black-clothed old man's escape, he jumped and chased after him. In fact, the old man did not know that Yu Shaochuan was indeed seriously injured, but the chrysanthemum text mental cultivation method he practiced was very powerful. Not only could it extinguish the flame that destroyed the skin tissue, but it could also absorb the flame and turn it into his own energy. That was why he could bear the injury and follow the old man closely. Because he did not think that Yu Shaochuan could survive, the old man did not care about his back at all. Instead, he chased his companion with all his strength. In addition, the strength gap between the two sides was not too big, and Yu Shaochuan was very good at hiding, so he followed all the way without being discovered. Chapter 1496. After running out of Yaoxian County, Yu Shaochuan suddenly felt that he was shrouded by a strange aura. Although the aura only flashed by and then disappeared, he could feel that this aura was very strange. It wasn't emitted by the black-clothed old man in front of him. Yu Shaochuan immediately stopped in his tracks and looked around vigilantly. However, he did not find any traces of strangers at all. In the time it took for him to stop, the old man in front of him had almost disappeared. Yu Shaochuan had no choice but to stop searching and continue to chase after the old man. "Senior brother, did that guy in women's clothing notice us?" Not far behind Yu Shaochuan, two blue-robed men were shuttling through the woods at an extremely fast speed. One of the men who looked younger asked in a low voice. "Yes, maybe I was anxious just now and released too much aura. It seems that I still have to restrain myself and not be noticed by people with ulterior motives." The other man with a flat top, who was a few years older, nodded slightly and said with a solemn expression. When the flat-top man had just extended his divine sense to Yu Shaochuan, he saw Yu Shaochuan's body tremble and stop and turn his head to look. The flat-top man immediately reduced the range of his divine sense a little, for fear of being discovered by the sissy in women's clothing. "Alas! I didn't expect that group of guys to beat us to it." The young man sighed heavily and said with a depressed expression, "If we had known this, we wouldn't have waited for the sky to turn dark. We could have directly explained the reason to that girl surnamed Tang during the day. Maybe she would have taken the initiative to agree after we offered enough compensation. Forget it. Although our Huanshan pavilion is still considered prominent in the cultivation world and occupies a top position, the old guys in front of us also have a very strong background. We don't need to become enemies with them for the time being." Although the flat-top man was also very aggrieved, he was relatively rational. "What should we do now? Are we just going to follow them like this? Our strength is not that high. We can't snatch them back even if we follow them." The young man asked. The crew-cut man strode forward and said, "Let's follow them and see where their nest is. Then, we'll report the situation to the sect leader and wait for further instructions." After chasing for a day and a night, the two of them finally followed Yu Shaochuan to an unknown, desolate suburb. There was a towering black building erected here, which looked very out of place in the desolate suburb. The two brothers watched Tang Tang being taken in by the black-robed man, but they felt completely helpless. After a discussion, they simply let the flat-top man stay and continue to monitor, while the young man took the voice-transmitting charm and looked for water, ready to contact the head of his sect. Yu Shaochuan also followed the man in black. He watched Tang Tang being taken in, but he did not dare to act rashly to save her. On the one hand, Yu Shaochuan's injury had not fully healed. On the other hand, he had circled around the black building, only to find that the defense of this place was very tight. There was only one gate in front, and the other places were very tightly guarded. He studied it for a long time, but he did not know how to sneak in without being discovered. In desperation, Yu Shaochuan could only lie in ambush behind a big tree, staring at the gate of the building, waiting for the people inside to come out. Yu Xiaochuan planned to wait for someone to come out, first catch a small fry to ask about the situation, and then make the next rescue plan. In one of the dark rooms in the black building, Qing Menjing was sitting on the bed, cultivating with her eyes closed. Although her hands and feet were bound by the rope magic artifact, causing her strength to be suppressed, it was not a problem for her to cultivate normally. It was just that without Xiao Chen by her side to assist her in dual cultivation, her progress was much slower than before. It was better than nothing. Creak, just as Qing Menjing was immersed in her cultivation, the door was suddenly opened. Qing Menjing jumped in fright and quickly withdrew her yuan qi. She suddenly opened her eyes and saw a black-clothed man carrying a woman with disheveled hair walking in. Then, he casually threw the woman on the ground. He didn't even look at Qing Menjing. Without saying anything, he turned around and left, closing the door with a pang sound. Hey! What did you do to Nie Xiaoyu? Why isn't she moving? Qing Menjing thought that Nie Xiaoyu had been sent back. Seeing her like this, she immediately shouted, but the door was still closed, and no one paid attention to her at all. Qing Menjing was a little helpless. She was tied up by the instrument and couldn't move, but she still jumped out of the bed with difficulty. She moved to the woman lying on the ground, gently touched her with her feet, and shouted, Xiaoyu, are you okay? Are you okay? Hurry up and say something. Don't scare me, okay? She finally woke up and rubbed her head with difficulty, feeling that her head was about to split open. Just as she was wondering why she had suddenly fallen off the bed, a familiar female voice suddenly rang in her ears. She looked up with a little confusion and saw Qing Menjing standing in front of her in a daze. She couldn't help but blink and whisper, Qing Menjing? Am I dreaming? Where am I? Tang Tang? Is it really you? How did you get caught by them? Qing Menjing couldn't help but be shocked when she saw the girl's raised face. She blurted out in surprise. At this moment, Qing Menjing's imagination had already begun to run wild. Could it be that the young master had captured all of Xiao Chen's companions to force him to do something? Or was there some other conspiracy to make him submit? What the hell was going on? You. Are you real? I'm not dreaming, right? The more Tang Tang listened, the more she felt something was wrong. She quickly got up from the ground and looked at Qing Menjing. She subconsciously reached out her hand to touch her cheek and found that it was warm. Then she realized that she was not dreaming. Tang Tang, I'm real. Why were you also caught? Qing Menjing saw Tang Tang's silly behavior and almost cried. She asked again. Tang Tang looked down and found that Qing Menjing was still tied up. She quickly began to untie her and said, I was going to sleep in the inn, and Yu Xiaochuan also lived next to me. Then I don't know what happened, but I fainted inexplicably. When I woke up, I found myself here. I don't know who caught me. Chapter 1497. Tang Tang struggled for a long time, but she still couldn't untie the rope. Qing Menjing shook her head helplessly and said, You don't have to try. This is a magic instrument in the cultivation world. It can suppress the strength of cultivators, and only the caster can untie it. You'd better, bang. Before Qing Menjing could finish her words, the door of the room was suddenly opened again. The black-clothed man strode in again and knocked Tang Tang out with a hand knife. Then, he quickly carried her on his shoulder and took her away. It was not until the door was slammed that Qing Menjing came to her senses. She was so angry that blood rushed to her head. She ran over and kicked the door. Originally, Qing Menjing lost her balance when she was tied up. After the kick, she fell to the ground. But she still shouted at the door, You bastards! What do you mean? First, you took Nie Xiaoyu away, and now you took Tang Tang away. Every time you don't let us finish talking, why did you bring them here? What a group of strange guys. Humph. If it weren't for the fact that she had been ignored after being thrown into the woodshed, Qing Menjing would have thought that this group of people was specifically targeting her. If they really deliberately caught someone she knew to meet and then quickly took her away, then this group of people was too boring. The black-clothed man who had just walked out of the door naturally heard Xing Menjing's cursing, but he didn't take it seriously. Instead, he quickly walked to the door of the yard with Tang Tang on his back. A black shadow stood at the door of the yard. It was the young master who passed by here. It turned out that when the black-clothed man brought Tang Tang here, he casually threw her into Xing Menjing's room. When he came out of the room, he didn't go far before he met the young master who happened to pass by. Seeing that the black-clothed man was in a hurry, the young master asked casually. Then, he reported the situation in detail and said that he was going to tell the first master and the second master about it. However, before the black-clothed man finished speaking, the young master's face changed. After repeatedly confirming that the captured woman's name was Tang Tang, he immediately ordered the black-clothed man to take Tang Tang out again and lock her up in another place. Naturally, the black-clothed man didn't understand the young master's action, but the young master didn't explain to him. He only ordered the black-clothed man to take Tang Tang away immediately and not lock her up with Xing Menjing. Although it was strange, the black-clothed man didn't dare to disobey the young master's order. He had to go back and knock Tang out again. He had to take her out again, which made Xing Menjing curse him. The young master still seemed to be worried, so he walked to the gate of the yard and waited. The man in black didn't know where to send Tang Tang. In order to avoid making any more mistakes, he simply walked to the young master and asked, "Young master, I've brought her here. Where do you think it's appropriate to lock her up?" The young master stared at the unconscious Tang Tang on the black-clothed man's shoulder for a while. It seemed that he was confirming her appearance. After a while, he ordered, "Just hand her over to the second master directly. This girl is very important to us. The second master knows what to do." After that, the young master glanced at Tang Tang again with a cold light flashing in his eyes. The corner of his mouth raised a strange arc. Then, he turned around and walked to his room. The black-clothed man lowered his head and didn't see the young master's expression. After hearing the young master's words, he didn't dare to neglect and immediately carried Tang Tang to the study of the second master. Fortunately, Tang Tang was relatively light and didn't weigh much, so the black-clothed man quickly came to the study of the second master. The second master hadn't slept yet. He sat in the study and looked through the recent account books. The black-clothed man knocked on the door and took Tang Tang in. Then, he briefly reported the situation and specifically mentioned that the young master just said that this woman was very important. Well. The second master stared at Tang Tang, who was lying on the ground. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, "I see. You can leave after waking her up. I will interrogate her." "Yes, I will." The black-clothed man immediately bent down and pressed on the back of Tang Tang's neck. After she woke up, he saluted and left. The second master leaned on the back of the chair and watched Tang Tang, who was recovering. He could vaguely guess that this little girl was probably the person targeted by Huan Shenxian. He didn't expect that his subordinate would snatch the opportunity. Huan Shenxian must be beating his chest and stamping his feet in regret now. However, the second master didn't intend to go straight to the point. He wanted to interrogate her first to see if he could learn from the special features of this little girl. After all, there was only one living dead, Nye Xiaoyu. If this living dead could be mass-produced, then the chance to go to that place would be a bit higher. It hurts. After Tang Tang woke up, she touched her neck first and felt a soreness. She couldn't help but feel depressed. In just one night, she had been knocked out twice in a row. In fact, Tang Tang didn't know that a whole day had passed since she was knocked out and brought here. "Are you going to talk to me like this, or get up and sit on the chair?" A slightly old voice came from above Tang Tang. Tang Tang's heart skipped a beat. She looked up and found that she was in a study at this time. Behind the big table in front of her sat an old man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. Obviously, he was the one who spoke just now. Although she didn't know who the person in front of her was, Tang Tang really didn't want to continue to lie on the ground. So, She stood up with difficulty, shook her head, and casually found a seat to sit down. Little girl, I heard that because your physique is different from ordinary people, you have practiced a very strange mental cultivation method that can make you immune to all kinds of poisons, right? The second master knocked on the table and asked faintly. Why should I tell you? Tang Tang looked very vigilant. She looked around and didn't find Yu Shaochuan's figure. She blurted out, Where's Yu Shaochuan? What did you do to him? Who's Yu Shaochuan? Never heard of him. The second master raised his eyebrows and asked with interest, Is he also a guy who is immune to all kinds of poisons? No, I'm just asking casually. Tang Tang immediately shook her head and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Since the old man in front of her didn't know Yu Shaochuan, it meant that he should still be safe in the inn. Maybe he would come to save her tomorrow. At this time, Tang Tang had gradually woken up. She suddenly recalled the scene when she was thrown into a woodshed and saw Qing Menjing. She couldn't help but stand up, stared at the second master and shouted, Who the hell are you? Why did you catch me and Qing Menjing here? Chapter 1498. Don't be impatient. Don't be impatient. The second headmaster didn't answer immediately, but slowly pressed his palm, signaling Tang Tang to relax. Although the anger in Tang Tang's heart was like a pot of boiling oil at this time, she was kidnapped and the situation was beyond her control. She could only grit her teeth and slowly sit back. The second leader nodded his head in satisfaction. With a leisurely expression, he replied, We are a powerful and mysterious organization. As for our name, there is no need for you to know. As for Lady Qing Menjing, she is a distinguished guest invited by our young leader. However, from now on, her life is in your hands. What do you mean by that? Tang Tang frowned and keenly sensed something unusual. She warned first, if you dare to do anything to Qing Menjing, Shaochen will not let you go easily. Hee, I'm afraid it's not up to you to decide this matter. The second headmaster looked at Tang Tang with a faint smile. He crossed his legs and said, I'm not interested in whether Shaochen will let us go or not. The only thing I'm interested in now is the mental cultivation method you're practicing. You haven't answered the question I asked you just now, have you? My mental cultivation method is useless to you. It's meaningless even if you know it. Tang Tang's expression changed for a while and then she tried to defend herself. You don't need to worry about it. As long as you tell me honestly what mental cultivation method you're practicing, I promise I won't let you suffer losses. How about it? Seeing that Tang Tang still refused to tell him, the second headmaster was a little impatient. He coldly snorted and said, Let's solve this first before we can talk about Qing Menjing. Don't you want to know what will happen to her next? Tang Tang gnashed her teeth when she heard the second headmaster's implied threat, but she couldn't do anything to this old man. In desperation, she had to take out the 5 Poisons secret book from her arms and threw it on the table. She said angrily, I usually practice this 5 Poisons secret book. Take it if you like it. But don't blame me for reminding you that unless you have a physique like mine, you will die after practicing it. Tang Tang had already memorized the 5 Poisons secret book, so it didn't matter even if it was confiscated by the second headmaster. She just wanted to save Qing Menjing, so it was not a big deal to take out a secret book. That's right. The second headmaster laughed and picked up the 5 Poisons secret book on the table to read it carefully. Second master read very fast, but he still turned over every page. When he finished, he threw it back to Tang Tang and said lightly, Sure enough, only people born with a poisonous body can practice it. It seems that you have some value. At this moment, the second leader was a little upset. He thought that he could learn from Tang Tang's method this time and create a daredevil team that was also not afraid of the poisonous gas. Unexpectedly, it was another unique existence. It seemed that he could only trick Tang Tang into going to that place as he did to Nye Xiaoyu. Tang, why did he give it back to me after reading it once? Is it because they don't have people who are born with poison, so this secret book is useless to them? But I still don't understand. Before Tang Tang could figure it out, the second headmaster pinched his chin and said, "If you practice according to this secret book, plus you are born immune to all poisons, your cultivation should be higher than this. But you are only at the venerable realm. What's going on? Is there anything else you haven't explained clearly? What's so hard to understand?" Tang Tang rolled her eyes and said angrily, "Didn't you read the secret book just now? The 5 Poisons secret book is divided into 2 parts. I have only practiced the first half. I need to take medicine to practice the second half. But I can't get any of those medicinal materials, so my strength is stagnant." After coming to the cultivation world, Tang Tang found that the mysterious medicinal materials mentioned in the second half of the 5 Poisons secret book could be found here. But they were all very rare or expensive. She had tried to buy them in a pharmacy, but they were too expensive for her to afford, or the stores didn't have any stock at all. "I see. Then it's easy." The second in charge looked at Tang Tang with a smile and urged her in a tempting tone, "What our organization lacks the least is the treasures of heaven and earth. I can help you gather all the medicinal materials you need in your secret manual, so that you can practice your strength to the highest level. What do you think? You must be hiding evil intentions if you are unaccountably solicitous." Tang Tang was not tempted. Instead, she looked at the second headmaster with vigilance and said, "How can you be so kind? There must be some conditions." "Oh, you are so smart. Of course, I can't hide it from you." The second headmaster did not deny it and replied slowly, "We can help you improve your strength to the peak. Then, in exchange, you must help me do one thing after you successfully advance. If you can do it, you will definitely benefit from it." "What is it?" The more Tang Tang listened, the more mysterious she felt. Why is this old man so kind? Doesn't he understand the principle of nurturing a tiger only to bring calamity? Or does he have some confidence that he can control me? You will naturally know it when the time comes. The second headmaster thought for a moment and deliberately added, "But you can rest assured that it will not ask you to commit murder or arson, nor will it ask you to cheat or do anything against morality." "Really?" Tang Tang still did not believe the words of the second headmaster. She looked at him with a little suspicion and said, "The medicinal materials mentioned in my secret book are very precious natural treasures. They can't be bought in ordinary pharmacies. They are all priceless treasures. Are you sure you can find them all?" "Ha, don't look down on our organization." The second headmaster looked up to the sky and laughed. He stood up with his hands behind his back and walked to the front of Tang Tang. He pointed at the secret book in her hand and said, "But I can tell you in advance that the natural treasures listed in your 5 Poisons secret book are all top poisons that will kill you instantly upon contact. If you can't bear it and die after eating them, our organization will not be responsible for it." Just now, when the second leader was flipping through the 5 Poisons manual, he had already noticed that the medicinal herbs needed for cultivation in the latter half of the manual were not only extremely expensive, but also incomparably toxic. Not to mention eating a little bit of it, there were even some that would be poisoned to death just by smelling it. Chapter 1499. It was because of the horror of the 5 Poisons that the second head keeper gave up the idea of letting his people practice it. If it were not for the people who were born with a poisonous body, they would not be able to bear the risk of practicing it. It was estimated that they would have been killed before they could master their skills. What? All of them are poisons? Tang Tang was also taken aback. No one had told her about this before. Tang Tang changed her mind and immediately shook her head, saying, "Forget it. I have no interest in becoming a peerless master. You'd better lock me up." In fact, from the bottom of Tang Tang's heart, she was indeed eager to improve her strength. But this matter was too dangerous. Unless there was Xiao Chen to help protect her, she would never risk her life by poisoning herself to upgrade. "Don't be so hasty to refuse. I think you can give it a try. After all, if you successfully practice the 5 Poisons secret manual, it will be good for both you and me, won't it?" Speaking of this, the second head keeper showed a despicable smile. He proudly raised his eyebrows and added, "Besides, even if you don't think for yourself, you have to consider the safety of Qing Menjing. You are too despicable. How dare you threaten me with Qingmenjing? Aren't you afraid? Tang Tang was so angry that her eyes were full of fire. She wanted to directly slap the old man in front of her to death. This man was so hateful. He always picked other people's weak spots and stabbed them with a knife. Ha ha ha, little girl, you are really naive. Before Tang Tang could finish her protest, the second head keeper laughed unscrupulously and said first, "Are you still counting on that Xiaoqin to save you?" Who knew which corner of the world he was wandering around in right now? Don't daydream. You are the one who is daydreaming. Xiaoqin will definitely come to save us. Tang Tang stared at the second head keeper and said word by word. You'd better not refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Seeing that Tang Tang still refused to give in, the second master's face turned cold. He said in a very understated tone, "If you refuse to do it, then before Xiaoqin comes here, I'll ask someone to rape and kill Qingmenjing first. Then, I'll find dozens of strong men to play with you in turns. At that time, you'll definitely want to die." Tang Tang gritted her teeth when she heard the shameless threat from the second in charge. But she also knew that now that she and Qingmenjing had fallen into the hands of the enemy, it was not the time to act on impulse. Otherwise, even if the enemy could not kill her, he would have many ways to torture them. After a moment of silence, Tang Tang suppressed her anger and coldly said, "Fine. I can promise you, but after this is done, you must abide by the agreement and let me and Qingmenjing leave this place in one piece." "Of course, no problem. If you had promised me earlier, there wouldn't be so many problems." The second master's expression immediately turned from cloudy to sunny. He became a smiling old man again and kindly said, "Then you should have a good rest tonight. When you're full of energy, you'll have the strength to practice tomorrow." Ha ha ha. As soon as he finished speaking, the second master clapped his hands. Soon, one of his men came in and took Tang Tang to another room to rest, while he hurried to the pharmacy, ready to start collecting the natural treasures mentioned in the secret book of 5 poisons. In fact, the second master was also a little lucky. When Nie Xiaoyu was trying to reach the peak of nascent soul stage, she had used up all the elixirs that could increase her cultivation. Now she was short of them. Fortunately, all the medicinal materials that Tang Tang needed were poisons, which happened to be available. Early the next morning, under the supervision of the second master, Tang Tang began to take the poison and prepared to practice. The person who boiled the medicine for Tang Tang was appointed by the second master himself, and he specially put on a poison-resistant mask. After Tang Tang drank all the poison, the remaining dregs were thrown out by the person who boiled the medicine. Anyway, they were in the wilderness, so they didn't worry that someone would pick them up. They just needed to make sure that the people inside didn't accidentally touch the poison. In addition to the person who was responsible for boiling the medicine, there were even maids who served Tang Tang's daily life and took care of her meticulously. However, whenever Tang Tang proposed to let Qingmenjing out first, those people would turn a deaf ear to her. As time went by, Tang Tang had to give up reluctantly. All this was specially arranged by the second master. After all, after losing Nie Xiaoyu, it was rare to find a suitable candidate to enter the secret realm to collect medicinal materials. Of course, he would not let it go easily. He not only had to ensure that Tang Tang's strength improved rapidly, but also to ensure that there would be no accidents during her practice. Otherwise, if the first master and the young master blamed him, he wouldn't be able to afford it. Yu Shaochuan stayed near the black building for a few days, healing himself while observing carefully. After watching for a while, he found that there seemed to be few people coming in and out of the place. Except for the strict guards on the wall, there were no guards patrolling around. Even if 1 or 2 people occasionally came out, they were all masters at the 5th or 6th level of the profound ascension stage. As soon as they went out of the door, they immediately used their movement skills and disappeared quickly. Yu Shaochuan couldn't catch them even if he wanted to. At first, Yu Shaochuan was a little anxious and kept circling around the building. But from the second day onwards, he found that a bag of things would be thrown out from the back wall of the building every day. It was just thrown on the side of the road casually, and no one cared about it. It looked very strange. At first, Yu Shaochuan didn't dare to make a move. Later, he found that the same thing was thrown out for several days in a row. He couldn't help but be curious, so he took advantage of a moonless night to carefully sneak over and steal a few bags. Bringing the small bag back to the tree where he was hiding, Yu Shaochuan randomly picked one and opened it. He didn't expect a stench to hit his nose. After taking a closer look, he found that the bag was filled with dregs of medicine. Opening the rest of the bags, Yu Shaochuan found that it was full of dregs that looked exactly the same, even the stench was similar. Although he didn't know what these dregs were, and he didn't know what they were for, Yu Shaochuan hadn't eaten for a few days. In addition, his injury was healing slowly, so he didn't care so much at this time. He simply ate all the dregs in one breath. Anyway, the chrysanthemum treasure book could absorb anything, even the dregs had the same effect. Ugh! The young man hiding not far behind Yu Shaochuan saw this scene and suddenly felt sick. He said to the man with a flat top next to him with a bitter face, "Senior brother, that person's brain is definitely not normal. He would even pick up the garbage thrown by others and eat it. It's too abnormal. Let's stay away from him. God knows what other unimaginable things he will do." Chapter 1500. Well, let's find another place to monitor. Wait, what's going on? The flat-top man nodded and was about to leave. Suddenly, he felt a fluctuation of aura coming from Yu Shaochuan's direction. He turned his head in that direction in surprise. After eating the dregs, Yu Shaochuan sat cross-legged on the tree and began to cultivate steadily. Judging from the fluctuation of aura, this guy seemed to be about to break through. The young man also noticed the abnormality at this time. He was very surprised and blurted out, Senior brother, look. That psycho can actually cultivate by eating garbage. His mental cultivation method is so weird. EW. Originally, the young man wanted to say that they should stay and observe, but when he thought of the scene of Yu Shaochuan eating garbage, his stomach kept churning. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't hold it. Alas, the cultivation world is really full of strange things. The flat-top man sighed softly. He immediately pushed his junior brother and said calmly, "Don't look at it. If his strength continues to break through, it is very likely that he will find our hiding place. Now it's not convenient for us to expose our identity directly. Let's go." "Okay, senior brother, I'll listen to you." The young man nodded quickly, resisted the feeling of nausea, and followed the flat-top man to the distance. This time, they came out to carry out a secret task of the sect. Although they had the backing of Huanshan Pavilion, they still had to be careful, lest they leave any gossip and make trouble for the sect. In the following days, Yu Shaochuan seemed to have found a new way of cultivation. Every day, he picked up the dregs that were thrown out of the black building and ate all of them to assist his cultivation. In just a few days, Yu Shaochuan's injury was completely healed, and his strength was constantly rising. There were new breakthroughs almost every day. He had been completely immersed in it and enjoyed it. Originally, Yu Shaochuan wanted to find a place to steal medicinal materials to complement his cultivation. He didn't expect that the medicinal materials here were so easy to get. Moreover, judging from the absorption of the chrysanthemum book, the effect of these dregs was extremely powerful, which meant that the original medicinal materials were extremely precious. If it weren't for Tang's safety, Yu Shaochuan would like to live here and guard the back wall of the black building every day, waiting for people to feed him the dregs. "Senior brother Wu Gang, why do I feel that fellow seems to be stronger than before? I can't even tell which stage he has broken through to." Although he was already very far away from Yu Shaochuan, the young man could still feel the oppressive feeling coming from Yu Shaochuan's direction. He was a little scared. "You're right." Wu Gang's expression was also somewhat solemn as he stared at Yu Shaochuan and said, "This fellow is indeed a bit strange. He can advance just by eating that trash, and he even broke through repeatedly. I've never heard of such a person in the immortal cultivation world." The young man asked in a trembling voice, "Senior Martial Brother Wu Gang, should we report this matter to the sect leader first? I feel that if we don't get rid of him soon, this sissy will become a scourge sooner or later. Forget it, Junior Marshal Brother Do Ling. With his current strength, I'm afraid it's not something we can deal with. Wu Gang shook his head and helplessly rejected Do Ling's suggestion. At first, Wu Gang looked down on Yu Shaochuan. He felt that it was a bit vulgar for this fellow to dress up as a woman and eat trash. But now that he couldn't even tell Yu Shaochuan's strength, there was no way he could kill him. Moreover, Yu Shaochuan didn't offend him. He couldn't possibly let the sect send an expert to deal with him just because his cultivation method was a bit strange and he had a faster breakthrough, right? That would be too inappropriate. No way. Could it be that his strength is already above yours? Do Ling was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth when he heard Wu Gang's words. But looking at Wu Gang's helpless expression, it didn't seem like he was joking. That guy who was neither a man nor a woman had obviously broken through to a higher realm. Wu Gang sighed and was about to reply when he suddenly saw Tang Tang coming out of the black building with a group of people from the corner of his eye. He immediately lowered his body and whispered, "Let's not take the initiative to provoke that person for the time being. That Tang chick has come out. Get ready to follow her." Do Ling was young but his ability to adapt was not bad. He immediately lowered his body and peeked through the gaps in the forest. Indeed, he saw a group of people coming out of the building and walking further and further away. Do Ling couldn't hide his curiosity and shock towards Yu Shaochuan. But he also understood that the key to this mission was to find Tang Tang. As for the other matters, it was better to leave it to the sect. From Do Ling's point of view, as long as Yu Shaochuan didn't have any conflict with Huanshan Pavilion, they wouldn't have a chance to meet again. So there was no need to keep an eye on Yu Shaochuan. At this moment, Yu Shaochuan's entire body was enveloped in a thick layer of Yuan Qi. Actually, he did not know which cultivation realm he had advanced to, but he could already clearly sense the movements within a few miles of him with his divine sense. Yu Shaochuan could even hear the conversation between Wu Gang and Do Ling, Tang Tang being escorted out of the black building by a few experts and walking towards another path. He could even hear a group of ants crawling on the ground. Although he could hear the two guys from Huanshan Pavilion talking about him, Yu Shaochuan didn't plan to look for trouble with them because he didn't want to expose himself. He was only thinking about how to rescue Tang Tang and escape successfully. Everything else wasn't within the scope of his consideration. The people who brought Tang Tang out of the black building were the second and young master, as well as some stronger followers. The first master was not among them. He stayed in the base camp and waited for the news from the front lines. After a period of sleepless continuous cultivation, Tang Tang's strength had successfully jumped from the Qi refining stage to the first level of the profound ascension stage. Although she almost went mad several times in the process, she still relied on her strong willpower to pull through. This time, Tang Tang made a successful breakthrough without any mistakes like Nia Xiaoyu last time, which led to the final failure, which made the second chief very proud. Therefore, he hurried to present the treasure to the first chief. After being praised, he was ready to take her to the valley where Nia Xiaoyu had been last time. Chapter 1501. As the silver radiance shone again, Yu Shaochuan's vision blurred and he was teleported in. Yu Shaochuan was shocked, but he didn't dare to act rashly. He waited until the two leaders of the group talked for a while and then walked towards the other side of the forest before he tiptoed over. Helplessly, the two of them could only follow Yu Shaochuan from afar. After all, following him meant that they were following Tang Tang. The only thing they had to pray for was that Yu Shaochuan would not suddenly attack them. Otherwise, they would have to give up on the mission and escape with all their might. From the perspective of Yu Shaochuan, who was hiding not far away, the group of people stopped when they came here. An old man with thick eyebrows and heavy eyes came out and pointed at the transmitting matrix and said something to Tang Tang for a while, as if he was telling her something. "I think that sissy must be suicidal. How dare he go to the Devil Valley alone to save someone? He must be crazy." Do Ling pouted and frowned. "Senior brother, what should we do next?" Looking at the endless wilderness and the dark woods, Yu Shaochuan sighed slightly. It seemed that he had to search all the way through this huge valley to find Tang Tang. Now that the bandit project was at a standstill and the young master had nothing to do in the branch, the big master did not stop him after he made this request and allowed him to set off with Tang Tang. Behind a huge rock, Wu Gang and Dou Ling watched as Yu Shaochuan disappeared into the teleportation formation. Dou Ling asked in surprise, "Senior brother Wu Gang, this teleportation formation should be the entrance to the Green Devil Valley, right?" Yu Shaochuan took out a piece of spirit crystal from his pocket and carefully inserted it into the groove in front of him according to the old man's method, just to give it a try. After studying the teleportation formation for a long time, Yu Shaochuan could not figure out the principle behind it. He only knew that those people seemed to have done something to activate the formation. He frowned and thought for a while. His gaze fell on the spiritual crystal embedded on the side of the formation. The group moved quickly and Tang Tang was brought to the side of the teleportation formation that Nye Xiaoyu had come to before in the evening. Aren't these people too rich? They didn't even take away all the spiritual crystals. Yu Shaochuan muttered and snorted, "It's best that they didn't take it away. It's all mine anyway. Shao Chen Appa, wait for me to save Tang Tang and I'll come for you." Could it be that this transmitting formation is also randomly teleported, just like how it was when we were teleported from the internal martial arts world to the world of cultivators? Yu Shaochuan muttered to himself as if he had realized something. Yu Shaochuan stared at this scene without blinking. After the spirit crystal was embedded into the array, the entire array began to emit a faint silvery white light. Yu Shaochuan had no time to enjoy the scenery. He wandered around for a while, but he couldn't find Tang Tang, who had just come in. The old man waved at Tang. Tang looked a little uneasy, but she still took a deep breath and walked into the center of the formation. You. Feeling puzzled, Yu Shaochuan returned to the place where he had just been teleported. He lowered his head and checked carefully, only to find that there were only his footprints on the ground. There were no traces of others. Thinking of this, Yu Shaochuan no longer stayed where he was and began to explore the valley. Fortunately, after walking for a while, he was surprised to find that there were treasures everywhere in this place. Not only were there a lot of them, but they were also extremely rare species. However, they grew as lush as weeds here. Thinking up to here, Yu Shaochuan no longer stayed in the same place and started to explore the valley. Fortunately, after walking for a while, he was pleasantly surprised to find that there were treasures of heaven and earth growing everywhere in this place. Not only were there a lot of them, but they were also of extremely rare species. But here, they grew lush like weeds. Well, now that the girl surnamed Tang has entered the Green Demonic Valley, there's nothing we can do. Wu Gang pondered for a while and said, "As far as I know, there should be a small town nearby. Let's stay there first, and then contact the sect leader to report the situation here. After that, we can make plans." Now that the chick surnamed Tang has entered the Green Demonic Valley, there's nothing we can do. Wu Gang pondered for a while and said, "As far as I know, there should be a small town nearby. Let's stay there first, and then contact the sect leader to report the situation here. After that, we can make plans." Before Yu Shaochuan could jump out, the light of the formation suddenly surged, and the silver-white light completely wrapped Tang Tang's body. Then, Tang Tang disappeared in the air in a flash. Yu Shaochuan walked over and checked the crystals one by one. He found that most of them had only used a small part of their energy, and they were still glowing faintly. Only the groove closest to the valley was empty, and the ground was covered with the powder of the spirit crystal. It seemed that the energy of the spirit crystal had been used up. At this time, in the Green Demonic Valley, Yu Shaochuan was looking around vigilantly. But apart from the strange green mist floating in the air, this place looked completely like an empty valley that had not been visited for a long time. There were lush vegetation and lush forests. At first glance, it was quite refreshing, and there was no sign of danger. As for the green poisonous gas floating in the air, Yu Shaochuan was not afraid at all. Instead, he felt that this color of mist was a bit like the haze that appeared in Songning City every autumn. It looked very familiar, and he could even increase his vitality by inhaling it. Before leaving, Wu Gang glanced at the woods on the other side of the valley again. He found that the second leader and others who escorted Tang Tang did not leave directly, but quickly set up a camp in the woods as if they were going to camp here. Well, this is the only entrance. I don't know if this guy's luck is good or bad. He actually went in just like that. Wu Gang nodded and said with some emotion. After Tang Tang nodded, the old man gestured to the crowd. A few middle-aged men immediately walked to the teleportation formation, took out sparkling spiritual crystals and began to embed them around the formation. Yu Shaochuan thought that since he could not find Tang Tang in a short period of time, he might as well use these natural treasures to cultivate. It was rare to encounter such a wonder, so how could he not make good use of it? After Tang Tang and the others left, Yu Shaochuan quietly followed them. Wu Gang and Dou Ling were in a dilemma. They were afraid of Yu Shaochuan, the sissy with unpredictable strength, but they did not dare to stay too far away from Tang Tang. They were afraid that they would accidentally lose him and could not carry out the sex order. Chapter 1502. As if a plant had found the most suitable soil for itself, Yu Shaochuan plunged into the valley in ecstasy. While inhaling the poisonous gas, he searched for Tang Tang and picked some heaven and earth treasures along the way. Yu Shaochuan had never been particular about cleaning or decocting the medicinal herbs. Basically, he stuffed all the spirit herbs into his mouth as soon as he picked them, and when he felt full, he would concentrate on cultivating, transforming the medicinal power of the heaven and earth treasures into his own energy. Then, he would continue to pick herbs, immersing himself in this endless cycle. At the same time, Shao Chen and Hong Zhu, who had set out from Yaoxian County, finally arrived near the dark green demonic valley. According to the clues provided by Elder Nangong and Elder Heaven Ancestor, the two found a large lake. Looking at the rippling, mirror-like surface of the lake, which faintly reflected the surrounding scenery, Shao Chen couldn't help but be a little dumbfounded. Could this be the entrance to the dark green demonic valley? But no matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like it. Husband Shao Chen, is this the dark green demonic valley? It doesn't look dangerous. Hong Zhu, who was standing to the side, also asked in a puzzled tone, do you think that Elder Nangong was fooling us? Although this lake is indeed very beautiful, I don't see anything special about it. When Hong Zhu heard Elder Nangong describe the dark green demonic valley to be so terrifying, he had thought that this place should be an extremely dangerous and terrifying place, but now it seemed that the environment was quite enchanting. This may be the periphery of the demonic valley, so there is no danger yet. We have to find the entrance first and enter the valley. Shao Chen raised his head and looked around. There were indeed many towering mountains in the vicinity, but the entrances were all blocked by dense forests, and it was impossible to enter them by relying on human strength. But where is the entrance? There is clearly only a large lake. Hong Zhu curled his lips and looked around. The surroundings were deserted and looked like a primeval forest. Perhaps the entrance is at the bottom of the lake. I'll dive down and take a look. Shao Chen stared at the rippling surface of the lake and said to Hong Zhu, you should carefully search this area. If you find anything strange, don't touch it. Wait for me to come up and take care of it. Okay, I'll definitely wait for my little brother Shao Chen. You'd better hurry up, I'll be scared if I'm alone up there. Hong Zhu beamed at Shao Chen, not forgetting to tease him a little. Shao Chen scratched Hong Zhu's nose, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After that, he took off his luggage and handed it over to her. After that, he jumped into the lake with a splash. First, he used his yuan qi to transform it into oxygen for breathing. After that, he opened his eyes, identified the direction of the lake, and swam straight to the bottom. Hong Zhu followed his instructions and searched back and forth along the shore. She didn't dare to go too far, as she didn't know if some ferocious beast or cultivator expert would suddenly appear in this primeval forest and swallow her whole. After all, there were many similar places where treasures were hidden in the inner martial world, and there were all kinds of creatures guarding them. The higher the quality of the treasure, the stronger the guardian creature would be. After dual cultivating with Shao Chen for a period of time, although Hong Zhu had already become an expert at the peak of the nascent soul stage, there were still many things that she couldn't cope with. Therefore, as long as Xiao Chen wasn't around, she would be a little more cautious. At this time, Xiao Chen had already dived to the bottom of the lake and released his divine sense to search the entire bottom of the lake. But to his disappointment, he didn't find anything at the bottom of the lake other than some strangely shaped fish swimming around and the craggy rocks that littered the ground. Xiao Chen was a little unwilling to give up, so he continued to expand his divine sense to the bottom of the lake. But even after he had extended his divine sense to a depth of several dozen feet, he still didn't find anything. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what's going on? I came here according to the directions you and Elder Nangong gave me, but there's nothing here. Xiao Chen was a little disappointed. He didn't expect that he would find nothing after running all the way here. No, I can sense that there's a weak energy surge at the bottom of the lake, which means that the dark green demonic valley should be nearby. Elder Heaven Ancestor said in a deep voice, it's just that after thousands of years, some changes have taken place here, so the terrain is a little different from when I first came here. Then what should we do? As Xiao Chen asked Elder Tian, he did not forget to continue using his divine sense to scan the entire bottom of the lake. He wanted to see if there was anything else he had missed. Elder Heaven Ancestor also looked around with the help of Xiao Chen's divine sense. After a while, he seemed to suddenly find something and reminded, there's a stone at your feet, pick it up and take a look. A stone? Is that what you're talking about? Xiao Chen looked down and saw that his feet were full of gravel, but there was a stone about the size of a fist at the side. Xiao Chen bent down to pick up the stone and looked at it carefully. As expected, he found something strange. There were some strange patterns and lines carved on the stone, which looked familiar. Xiao Chen frowned and tried to recall where he had seen it, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it. I see. Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly sighed, and his voice became a little heavy. It seems that there really is no entrance to this place, because the entrance has been destroyed. What do you mean? Xiao Chen asked blankly, Elder Heaven Ancestor, please explain to me. Even if I die, you should let me know why I die, right? If I'm not wrong, this stone should belong to some kind of teleportation formation, and this formation is the entrance to the dark green demonic valley. Elder Heaven Ancestor said word by word. You mean? A thought suddenly flashed in Xiao Chen's mind, and he immediately looked up. Not far from the bottom of the lake, there were many small stones similar to this stone, scattered everywhere. They looked very ordinary, and there was nothing unusual about them. Yes, maybe because too much time has passed, and the plain turned into a lake, so the formation that was left here has also collapsed. Elder Heaven Ancestor paused, then added, maybe someone didn't want others to find this entrance, so they deliberately destroyed the teleportation formation. In short, you can no longer enter the dark green demonic valley from here, so you'd better think of another way. All right. I guess that's the only way. Xiao Chen shrugged helplessly, quickly swam back to the shore, and looked for Hongzhu, who was still searching everywhere. Husband Xiao Chen, how is it? Did you find anything down there? Hongzhu came up to him with an expectant look. She had been looking around for a long time, but couldn't find anything, so she was feeling depressed. Chapter 1503. Upon hearing Hongzhu's question, Xiao Chen shook his head and gave a simple explanation of the Elder Heaven Ancestor's conjecture. He also showed her the stone with the pattern carved on it. Hongzhu did not expect that Xiao Chen would also come up empty-handed. She could not help but frown and ask worriedly, since there is no entrance here, where are we going now? Xiao Chen rubbed his chin and thought for a moment, then said, when I was on the flying sword just now, I saw a small town nearby. It doesn't seem to be too far from here. Why don't we go there and ask about the situation of the dark green demonic valley? Perhaps someone will know about it. All right, I'll listen to you and do as you say. Hongzhu nodded. Xiao Chen summoned his flying sword and leapt onto it with Hongzhu in his arms. He then skillfully controlled the flying sword and sped toward the small town. After arriving at the small town, the two of them went around looking for shops and stalls to ask around. Soon, they learned that the town was called Clear Moon Town and was located at the border. Due to the fact that the place was relatively remote and surrounded by high mountains and lofty ridges, transportation was inconvenient. Coupled with the fact that there were many poor people in the town and the lack of commercial development, there was no economic benefit to be had. As a result, Clear Moon Town had always been a lonely town and had never been incorporated into a prefecture. However, no matter how the two of them asked around, the people in the town seemed to have no idea about the dark green demonic valley and were unable to find any clues. Xiao Chen was not discouraged and continued to walk down the street with Hongzhu. The two of them looked around to see if there were any locals who seemed to be more cultured. "Husband Xiao Chen, don't you think that girl's back looks rather familiar?" Hongzhu suddenly pointed to the back of a figure in front of them and said, "Big sister, I think I've seen her somewhere before." Xiao Chen looked in the direction of Hongzhu's finger and saw a girl who looked like a fairy walking silently in front of them. However, her Taoist robe was a little dirty and messy and her figure was a little down and out. "Li Xian, Xiao Chen was stunned and blurted out a name. The Taoist robe of the person in front of him was too easy to recognize. There was no one in the cultivation world who dressed like this. When Li Xian heard someone calling her name, she subconsciously turned her head around, only to see a man and a woman standing in the middle of the road, looking at her in shock. Who else could it be but Xiao Chen and Hongzhu? Xiao Chen and Hongzhu. Why are the two of you here? Is it really you? I'm not dreaming, am I? Li Xian was immediately dumbfounded. When she saw the familiar faces of Xiao Chen and Hongzhu, it was as if she had seen her closest family members. Tears flowed uncontrollably from her eyes, and she was so emotional that she couldn't even speak clearly. "Yes, it's the two of us." Xiao Chen nodded with difficulty. The Li Xian in front of him was much thinner and more haggard than when he had seen her in the inner martial world. It was obvious that she had suffered a lot after coming to the cultivation world. Xiao Chen's heart ached and he felt sad. He had so many words to say, but he didn't know where to start. It was Hongzhu who rushed over and hugged Li Xian's slender waist. He took out his handkerchief and carefully wiped away the dust and tears on her face. Then, he comforted her in a gentle voice, "Little sister Xian, don't cry. Looking at you, you must have been starving for many days, right? Why don't we find a place to have a meal with you first, then we can slowly talk." "Okay. Thank you, big sister Hongzhu." Li Xian smiled through her tears and nodded. She was indeed about to faint from hunger. That was why she was so surprised when she heard someone call her name and turned around to see Xiao Chen and Hongzhu. She even thought that she was hallucinating because she was too hungry. Hongzhu supported Li Xian and casually found a restaurant with Xiao Chen. After the three of them sat down, Xiao Chen ordered a dozen or so dishes and asked the waiter to bring a few bowls of rice, which he placed in front of Li Xian. Xiao Chen wasn't in a hurry to ask about Li Xian's current situation. He planned to wait until she had eaten and drunk her fill before having a good chat with her. Looking at the table full of dishes, Li Xian no longer cared about her appearance. She picked up her chopsticks and wolfed down the food. Only after she had finished 3 bowls of rice and 2/3 of the dishes on the table did she put down her chopsticks in satisfaction and wipe her mouth. "Little sister Xian, eat slowly. Be careful not to choke." Hongzhu hurriedly scooped a bowl of hot soup and placed it in front of Li Xian. After watching her finish the soup, he asked, "Are you full? Do you want another bowl of rice? Don't stand on ceremony. If you're hungry, just say it. It's fine." No need. "Thank you, big sister Hongzhu." Li Xian blushed. The two of them had seen her eating like a tornado just now. She felt very embarrassed. "Li Xian, how did you come to this place? Are you alone? Why do you look so down and out?" Xiao Chen finally couldn't help but ask 3 questions in one breath. Li Xian's face darkened. She sighed softly and said faintly, "It's fortunate that I met you this time. Otherwise, I would definitely starve to death here. I wonder how Xiao Yu is doing now. She was captured by a group of bad people and I didn't have the ability to protect her. I'm really too useless. Nye Xiao Yu? So you came in together with her. What happened? How is she? Xiao Chen was shocked and hurriedly asked. An ominous premonition emerged in his heart. After Nye Xiao Yu and I came in, we stayed on the mountain for a period of time. Then, we prepared to go to the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce to work. I didn't expect that she. Li Xian, briefly explained how she and Nye Xiao Yu went to the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce to register and then Nye Xiao Yu was captured that night. Hearing this, Xiao Chen couldn't help but secretly regret. If he hadn't agreed, Nye Xiao Yu wouldn't have come to the world of cultivation through the teleportation array. He didn't expect that he would harm her in the end. After that, I was penniless and could only work to earn some spirit crystals. Then, I went around looking for Xiao Yu. Li Xian, continued, after that, I came to Qingyue town. In the end, I couldn't find her and had spent all my spirit crystals. When I wanted to work, I realized that there was no chamber of commerce here. Before I left, I met you, the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce? Why do they have so many troubles? Could it be that Nye Xiao Yu's disappearance has something to do with them? Xiao Chen frowned and muttered softly. He had a strange feeling in his heart, but he couldn't figure out what it was. Husband Xiao Chen, I don't think it's a problem with the Chamber of Commerce, right? Hong Zhu raised a different opinion. Didn't we meet people from that Chamber of Commerce before? No one came to capture us. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.